Just the letter is all that I got on that. I didn't get any minutes.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't get them either, but I got online and got them. I can hand them out to everybody if that would be,
If you think we need them, sure.
well, we're gonna have to, talk about the recommendations that the county made for the Watkins permit, so probably would be good to have them printed. You want to move it?
Yeah.
He said he was gonna participate by phone.
Okay.
Yeah, the phone is on, so he should be on there. Are you there, Stevie?
Yep, I am.
Okay. There, now you don't need to wonder. We're still organizing.
Thanks.
Okay. We should get started because we're a little late here. Leave it pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Kurt,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
George,
Yes, here.
Wes,
Here.
Kirk,
Here.
Gene,
Yeah.
John. Gene and John.
Yep, Jean's here.
Okay.
John's here.
Yeah. And Eric is not here. approval of we got 2 sets of meeting minutes. Should we take an inventory or a roll call for people on the phone too?
Okay.
If you're on the phone, could you please state your name, and if you're with one of the companies for the solar project, if you could state your name and company, please.
Sure, Josh Watkins, Oak Orchard Diesel Supply.
You got Adam Wingard with AES. I also have my attorney, Teresa Baker from Whiteman, Oakstrom, Indiana, the Bayard Solar Project.
Okay.
This is Andrew Gordon from AES also.
Okay. All right. We had meeting, a regular meeting on January 11th. Then we had a special meeting on the 4th of February. So we need to motion for the approval of the meeting minutes from those 2 meetings separately.
I'll move for the approval of the January 14th minutes.
For 4th.
I think it's supposed to be the 11th on there. I know it says the 14th, but I think it's supposed to be the 11th.
It says the 14th, whatever date that was.
Was it?
Yeah, I know. The 11th would have been a Monday.
Second for that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then the motion for the workshop meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion for approval of the meeting minutes for February 4th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So the first item on the agenda tonight is the public hearing for Josh Watkins diesel and gas mechanic business at 4227 Oak Orchard Road. The project was sent to, the site plan review was sent to the county, and they provided their comments, which I'll go over those with everybody. Everybody got a copy of those, right?
Yes.
The recommendation from the county was for approval with the following conditions for this referral. A highway access permit should be obtained from the New York State DOT before a north driveway is installed. Secondly, the project shall comply with all dimensional requirements of the town zoning ordinance. There's a couple things that were brought up by the building or zoning officer that were a question also, which I wondered if, I talked to Shelley today and she was wondering, Josh Can you answer a couple questions about that? I wondered how many vehicles you were planning on having for sale outside?
For sale,
Yes,
just one at a time.
okay.
Right, and, just, I know that I put in there with, how during the whole process until I get it out front and sold, it's not gonna have any plates on it. So that's why, you know, I'm thankful that you got, and, grateful that you guys let me have one for the opportunity, so it will never go over that.
Okay. And then the other thing Shelley was wondering was your permit from New York State, from the state to operate a repair shop. Is that something that you have in the works, or is that not in the works yet?
No, it's in the works. I have to buy the signs first from the state, and that's what I'm looking into right now for the New York State Registered Repair Station and New York State Registered Auto Dealer.
Okay.
I believe it's a red or it's red, yellow, or green, one of the three.
I think when we sent this to the county, that was one of the things that was, that the zoning officer was asking for before we provided the special use permit. Is that gonna, disrupt your plans at all, or does that work okay with your schedule?
No, that works fine. I'm gonna pretty much, commit just to this once the, permit's approved so that I can get in compliance with everything that I'm not in compliance with right now as far as like the privacy fence and the, minor commercial driveway permit and et cetera.
Okay. The,
You know what I mean? Once you guys approve this, you know, I'm gonna move on this pretty quick to get my addition that I have to put up on the garage and get approved for the driveway and put up my privacy fence so I can get all the vehicles inside and out of the way.
okay. Will the privacy fence be a solid fence or?
Yes.
Okay. And she wanted to find out if you are not planning on having any disassembled vehicles outside, is that right?
Correct.
The zoning we have currently talks about a maximum of 4 vehicles for sale at a time. And that's gonna be acceptable to you too?
Yeah, we just went over that, right? That, there's only gonna be one?
Yeah, but I mean, when you get down the road, and when you get up and running and so forth, your intent is never to have more than 4, right?
No,
Okay.
no, sir.
Yep. And again, these are things that she asked me, she couldn't be here, so she asked me to find out about this. The bathroom, you're gonna build a bathroom inside the building and, for employees, right?
Yes.
Yep, I think that was on the site plan, and then, a permit for the, remodeling, if you do any remodeling in there to do that. She just wanted to make sure that she got a permit for that, building permit.
Right, I plan on applying for a couple right away
Okay,
so that I can get the work started.
okay. That's all I have for Shelley. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No, his submission here is really explicit as to how many vehicles he was going to do, and he covered it all.
Okay,
So he was very good on it.
good.
I don't know, I Shelley had questions, but it was in here 3 times, he'd only get 1 vehicle.
Yeah, well, if there's no more questions, you need a motion for the special use permit recommendation. We will have to make it pending on the things the county, which we don't have any disagreement with the county had, so, and then the other things will be that it just has to be compliant with the current zoning for repair shops and auto sales that we have.
I move that we allow him to have Josh Whiting, is it? To have
Watkins.
the diesel repair service on the road. Pursuant to the building permit, special use permits that are necessary. Did you have other restrictions that he had to do something beforehand or no? I don't think we did.
No.
Okay.
Just the county things and then everything that's in the,
So that he just adheres to all the requirements that we asked for. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
okay, we need a second for that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So you got those conditions, right, Lee? Highway, the ones that were on the county and then the ones that are referred to our current zoning. And pending the permit from the state for the repair facility. Any other questions, Josh?
Just that, is this going to be a yearly process that I have to go through, or, is this like a one-time only deal
It's
for the special permits?
a 1-year special use permit and renewable each year with a fee. And then if you choose to make any modifications or you want to make any modifications by adding onto the building or selling more cars, something of that nature, that's the only thing that would trigger having to come back to the planning.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's just to Shelley.
Yep, just
Yeah.
a Shelley.
that's the only question I have.
Okay, good, thank you. So we closed the public hearing then for that.
Yes.
You did the seeker on it, so we're good.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the next item is the new business. I think most of the things that we were going to talk about tonight are in the old business column, but is there anything new that we should go over? Anybody wants to bring up?
I'll officially bring it up again, I guess, as far as, relooking at the comprehensive plan, and reviewing it. Annual review is proposed during the first 5 years. Town board should direct the planning board or a special committee to conduct the annual review. The review should identify all actions proposed in the plan and note which have not taken place. That's right out of our adoption and maintenance of the comprehensive plan. With the changes that are happening in the community that are gonna affect everybody in the community. You know, I'm getting a lot of feedback from the community every day that they don't feel their voice is being heard. I will bring this up at the town board meeting on Wednesday, but I think that we should be seriously looking towards another survey of the town. And how their feelings are on it. Especially with, I know Arkwright is going through a lot of lawsuits right now. I don't know anything about them, but I know when I talked to their supervisor, he was disgusted with it. You know, he said 20% were always for the project, 20% were adamantly opposed, and he didn't hear anything from the 60% in the middle until they went up. And now he's got 80% of the people against it and want lawsuits. So I think if we are ahead of the ball, you know, curve and say, look, here's a survey, this is the way you answered, we can't have any lawsuits. Let the town speak. So I don't know if, you know, if you want me to make a motion to the town saying, you know, I think from the planning board, we make a recommendation that a survey be conducted of the town, or I will bring it up Wednesday.
The process to go through updating the comprehensive plan has to be directed by the town board, right?
Yep.
So they have to ask us to perform the duty.
But I think that if we, you know, show them that it's time to do it, and it's our duty to inform them that we're going by the comprehensive plan, it's time to review it. I mean, right in here, it's 5 years, and the last survey was done in 2015. So we're late.
So are we going to be pushing off the energy storage business another 6 months then, George?
I think we can still talk about it, but I think that would be an excellent.
Talk
thing to
about
put in
it
the survey
when?
And to let the, you know, let the town talk about it. I think that would give us more direction on where we're supposed to go.
This is just like the last comprehensive. We push off and push it off because there's more things coming along and it doesn't get done. And we wondered why it took us, I don't know, 7 years or whatever it took us.
Was the comprehensive plan, or reviewing it or updating it?
I think just reviewing it, I think reviewing it would be a survey that says we're on the right track.
Sure. How does that interfere with completing storage?
Well, how much time do we have at a meeting to do anything? We've tried energy storage last time at the workshop, didn't get through that. So I understand. We should be up checking out the comprehensive plan every few years.
Yes.
But how do we get anything else done then? Just a question.
Yeah, I understand.
We have the solar project coming up. We're gonna need to talk about that.
If the town board wants to update the comprehensive plan, that's another thing in place.
Do we want to, see, I don't know if we need to update or just get a survey that says we're on the right track and review. I guess I'd look at it as more of a review, that we're on the right track.
If we do a survey, it's for the purpose of an update to the comprehensive plan. That's what it's for. It's not for,
How do you
we're on the
review,
right track.
if you don't poll the citizens of Berry, how do you review it?
Well, the way we did it before, which was the procedure that we were instructed was to do the survey, summarize the survey results, and then put that into the recommendations, into the plan, the comprehensive plan. So, and then we gave those recommendations to the town board.
Okay, so what I guess I would say is, it's time to do that, according to this. I would say, a survey of questions is in order of how the town feels. Especially with, there's 3 projects right now that we're talking about that will definitely affect the citizens of Berry.
It sounds,
For taxes and for everything,
it sounds to me that you're asking for a periodic survey of the town, not for the purpose of updating comprehensive plan, but for meeting the heartbeat of the town.
this, if we're on the right, that's what the comprehensive plan is that we're following, what the towns wants.
That's what,
And so that we can make plans accordingly to follow those wishes. I mean, I know a big thing, we don't want industry. That's, has that changed? That's what, and I think this is what we're looking and talking about and discussing now are some hot topics. And all I'm saying is that I'm getting a lot of feedback from them that they don't have a voice.
George, why don't, you said you were gonna bring it up to the town board.
Sure.
Go ahead and do that, but do it as an individual, not as a planning board.
Right, I'm just bringing it up to you guys that I think that we should, as a planning board, as what's stipulated in here, make that recommendation to the town board.
Well, you gotta get the rest of us to go along with that.
you have to make a motion.
Well, I can't make them, I'm not in as a voting member today, so I can't, I'm just kind of throwing this out here to you guys today, that I think it's something that we do need to, look at if we're gonna do our due diligence and act as a planning board for this town.
I do agree that we should do a survey before we do an update to the comprehensive plan, because that would be very.
I would look at that as a review, but that's, so you can make the motion, Jen.
That there should be a survey in order to do a review of the comprehensive plan. I can make that motion, I think it would be unanimous. And when that should be done, would be.
Well, again, if we're discussing battery storage and solar, I think it's.
If you're going beyond that and you're saying that should be done before we do the battery storage law, I don't think we get support. But I'm saying,
I got a question for you guys who've been doing this longer. Isn't it the purpose of the public hearing to discuss any changes or applications we have, and that time we listen to the public concerns about that? I mean, we already have applications in-house, so really, we can do a survey, but it doesn't change that they can apply for these applications and move forward. But that's what a public hearing is for the citizens that are affected by the project to address their concerns. Isn't that?
I would say so.
Well, the way that the town knows that addressing the public hearing is, right now, is with COVID and with the situation, they're not handling it very well. And if you listen to the last town board meeting or the workshop where they were going over the public hearing, they were throwing a lot of them out, people's comments in that, because they had a stipulation that it had to refer right to the change in the law. So they were tossing left and right a lot of the public's comments. And what I'm saying for the survey would be to get the public's input. And not only, we could do a lot of different, we would want to do all of different questions. Pretty much back to the questions that they had before, as far as a senior citizen spot. Other things that I think should be coming up is, how about a Family Dollar? How's the town in Berry feel about a small convenience store location. There's tons of questions out there that we need to get the pulse on what's happening.
I think of a small convenience, as your example.
Like a family dollar.
If that came to the town, we have a business district, that you come in and apply for a permit. As long as it's on 98, I don't think we need a survey to find out whether or not that should come in. I mean, it's within the.
I think we should move on. George, we know where you're going with it, and the ship has sailed on. I mean, if you want to make a motion then.
I can't.
Oh, well, then let's move
but
on.
as
You're not
far
gonna
as
convince
the-
any of us.
If John, if you want to make it, you can, but I'm saying that the 5 years, we should be doing.
The only motion I would make is one that everyone would agree on, is that we should do a survey when we update the comprehensive plan. That's a given. I mean, I don't think we have that requirement, but if we want to make it a requirement, I think we can do that right now and move on. But, that's all it would be for. I don't think that satisfies what you're looking for, though.
I'm saying we should, it's the review, and I'm saying a review would be to, get the pulse of the town.
A review of the comprehensive plan would basically be redoing the comprehensive plan just like we did the last time. You can't just read it over and say, yep, that looks good. We just reviewed it. We're gonna go through line by line and spend a lot of time and a lot of work to do it.
Okay, so what I'm not understanding then is why in our comprehensive plan is this paragraph in there on revising the comprehensive? And you specifically have annual reviews proposed during the first 5 years. Why is that specifically in there?
I don't know, all I was saying is a review would basically be a revision, I think.
And then after 5 years, a more detailed review should be under. And we're past 5 years.
One of the other things that we did when we did the update to the comprehensive plan is we followed the protocol that they had previously. And that included reaching out to all the municipalities and all the government agencies that surround the town.
And getting their input on what's happening in the town.
Right. And
Yeah.
getting input from them too.
And do I think do I think we need to do the whole no, I don't think we need to do it. I think we just need to get a new compass reading and make sure we're on the right road.
But one of the things that might steer that compass reading is the input from surrounding municipalities and from other government agencies. Because one of the agencies we had comments from before was the Genesee Regional Planning Council. So they had,
So you're saying, if you're gonna do this, we're gonna review thoroughly, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
it seems to me, I mean, that's just my thought, because if you're only going to request the opinion of the residents, is that
A real review.
yeah.
I think it would be good, Jordan, if you brought it up to the town board to find out when they would want the next review done.
Okay.
That means it's on the calendar somewhere.
Okay.
'Cause right now it's open.
Okay.
I don't know when it would be good for that.
It does say here in the beginning, this plan document includes, sorry, a new land use plan that presents a vision of the town's desired development patterns over the next 20 years. 20. A strategy for maintaining the plan over the next 15 to 20 years. That's right in the very beginning, the introduction of the comprehensive plan. Not saying that we can't review it,
That's, but. yeah,
but that's what it's saying, it's planning the 15 to 20 years.
How about if we touch base at the end of our meeting on this? We got people on the phone
Yep, I'm fine.
that wanna do some business.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is old business in the AES Bear Solar Project. We've had some correspondence about that, and I guess probably be good if Adam, if you could provide us with an update as to where this project stands, that would be appreciated.
Sure, yeah, good evening, can you guys, everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, first and foremost, again, there's allotting us some time this evening, for our project. We really appreciate the board's consideration, related to our proposed, D project here. I guess, yeah, you know, it's kind of in terms of status of the project as a whole. As everyone obviously is familiar, we have submitted our application. We have met with both the planning board, town board, as well as the zoning board of appeals. Has a resolution from the zoning board of appeals as it relates to our accessory structures. So things such as fencing, landscaping, stormwater management features, our access road being located in the B zone. And the zoning board of appeals has effectively but effectively given us an interpretation of those accessory structures being located in the B zone, basically any accessory structure that is serving purpose for a approved use within the agricultural residential zone is also permitted to be located in the B zone. So we have that resolution, albeit I know that it is not executed. So maybe something I can work with the lead to get the actual executed copy. But that is effectively the current status of the project in the prior meetings that have taken place related to our project. And really the purpose for our project being on the agenda this evening is essentially for really asking two things of the board. One would be seeking a recommendation of the special use permit application and site plan up to the town board. As we do understand, there is a formal approval from the town board required from our application. So that's one ask. The additional ask is, excuse me, setting a public hearing date with the planning board related to our application for the special use permit and site plan approval. Now, as we understand it, per the existing local law, we're effectively treating our project as going through two rounds of approvals, one from the town board and one from the planning board, both specific to the site plan the site plan approval or site plan application, as well as our special use permit application. So that's essentially why we are here this evening, is seeking those two items of the board, but also more than happy to answer any questions, concerns, comments as it relates to the application, site plan, or anything there too.
The one question, well, not the one, but one of the questions I had was relative to the latest correspondence, which I think everybody on the board has seen. Lee forwarded it to you about some inconsistencies in our current solar zoning law. And as a board, we spoke about those at our last workshop meeting. And I appreciate you pointing those out because they are pretty significant. Based on the town attorney, Lance, the understanding is that those clarifications need to go to the county for review and recommendation. And then back here for a public hearing and so forth in order to get that zoning clarified. Are you thinking that that is the process that your attorney feels we have to go through also, or are you suggesting we could do something different?
Well, let me address that if I could. I'm sorry, Teresa Baker, Whiteman, Osterman, Hannah. The application that AES made has been pending since September, and the town board of the town of Berry is the seeker lead agency, and as you know, they coordinated and confirmed their status, and they've been reviewing the environmental impacts of the project. So what we would prefer to do is continue to follow down the path of, getting the approvals from both the town board and the planning board. The town board will have to approve the decommissioning agreement anyhow, so that we don't lose any time while you're making any minor text changes to the solar law to address the discrepancy about which board approves what. And also, we didn't want to assume that the town didn't want to have a town board and a planning board approval. Some towns do that. Some of the towns out in the eastern part of the state do that. So we have no problem proceeding with getting the approvals on the project, and we have no problems having a public hearing in front of the town board and a public hearing in front of your board. I think what we had hoped is that the project would be in the process of being reviewed. We understand the town has hired Labella engineers to review. We put $15,000 in the escrow account, and Lance and I discussed the escrow agreement, and the escrow agreement is all in place. So what we really want to do most of all is proceed with the review of the project, and we have no problem doing it in front of both boards. But if in the future you all want to fix it so that it's just in front of the planning board for site plan and special use permit, that's fine. If you want it to be in front of the town board, that's fine. That's up to you all and what you'd like to do. Currently, the law says there's a recommendation from the planning board to the town board on the special permit for the solar facility, the utility scale solar facility. And so we had just hoped to proceed rather than, sort of getting hung up again. We were kind of, we were waiting while you guys made the zone change with respect to the business and the R1 to AR that you were doing town-wide. And we just kind of hate to get caught up in another delay related to, changing the code, especially when we don't care if we'll proceed and get the approvals as it's currently described.
Okay. The one thing that, and Lance isn't on the line to comment on this, but the one question, does it put the town at risk if we make a recommendation on a project that we know we have to have some clarification on in our zoning? Does it put the town at risk for possible litigation later because there was a clarity issue when your application was reviewed?
Yeah, I mean, the solar law from 2019 is very clear as to what the requirements are that you have to meet in order to have a special use permit for solar. And also the site plan requirements are very clear. So The answer to that question from my perspective is, as long as we have the approval of both the town board and the planning board, I don't think that there's any risk of successful litigation alleging that we didn't get the right approvals because we got them all. So, and from our perspective, we're very careful to make sure that we meet all the requirements of the law so that when the time comes, we can get financing for the project, and we can also assure anyone who's involved in the project that all the appropriate approvals have been obtained. The only problem would be is if you told us, well, just get site plan and special use permit from the planning board, don't worry about that town board language, that's not what we meant. We would never do that. We would always say, here's what the law says, so this is what we shall do. And as long as you follow what the law says, you're fine. Now, I can't give you that advice, you've got to get that advice from Lance, obviously, but I mean, I'm very comfortable with it because we appear in lots of different places, and some places town boards give special permits, and other places planning boards, and in other places zoning board of appeals do it. So it's, there's a lot of discretion that's granted to municipalities on that point.
Correct, yeah, and I think it's not just going to give you a little bit more perspective, at least for me as I see it, right? I think Teresa articulated summarized accurately. I think essentially what we're talking about doing, right, is getting every I and every T crossed. We're basically, we're kind of running, we're willing to get any and all potential applicable approvals that could be in place, even with a potential change to how the law is drafted today.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to give you some comfort, I mean, we've gotten, sign-offs from many entities for the project, including recently a letter from DEC saying we didn't need any permits from them. We've, done a threatened and endangered species review of the site. I mean, all the environmental issues, we've provided information to the town with respect to that. That was why we were curious if either the planning board or the town board had received any comments yet from LaBella on their technical review.
We have received the LaBella comments. Everybody on the planning board, we received those today, just tonight, actually at 4:30 PM. I got them. And everybody on the planning board got a copy of them, but it's a 4-page email that honestly, based on the time period between when we received it and now, it's difficult to digest everything we got here.
Yeah, it'd be great if somebody could email us those.
Yeah, I was just going to ask too. Yeah, we really appreciate you got it as well. And to give some context from from AEF's perspective as well. This is not an uncommon thing. In terms of seeing the first round of comments. Some I think it's stated 4 pages. I've seen anywhere from 20 comments to 120 comments. It really it does vary. And from what we have seen, typically see with these, with the comments are, things that are in general practice relatively easy for us to accommodate. There's typically things that they want to see updates to the decommissioning plan, including, greater contingency level, or something of that nature. I think, big picture, there are and can be, right, some big ticket items in there, but generally what we do see is we'd like clarification here, we'd like further concurrence, with this agency here. But obviously, until we see the comments, I can't say that is exactly what's in every single comment that we have from Bella. But we're used to seeing rounds of comments, and in general, practice has not really caused any major concerns from us as the developer or
Anybody want to jump in here? I had some stuff I was gonna ask you too, but,
There's 15 comments.
yep. So the Labella piece is one piece that is pretty extensive to be able to comment on that tonight when we've only received it, an hour and a half ago. But the other thing that we talked about with the town attorney and also as a board at our last workshop was some of these changes, which I think it's important that we discuss those, because some of these you may have a different opinion on. The question we asked a minute ago about the legal ramifications of it.
I don't feel comfortable not having that in place and giving them any opportunity to go ahead with the project. I don't think that's fair for either one of us.
We are, everybody understands this, I'm sure. We're making a recommendation to the town board for this project that we did our review and that everything is complete and sufficient, So just to make sure everybody understands that, but I that's well taken. But just a couple other things that we talked about at our workshop, other than the clarification, was a host agreement, and the requirement to enter into a host agreement with the town.
Yes, there's been a round of communications on the pilot agreement, which I believe you're referring to as the host agreement between Lance and myself, and we gave him a draft pilot agreement. He gave us comments. We made some changes, and we need to have some further discussions on that. But we're well aware that the town would like to enter into a pilot agreement, and I believe the county is also part of that.
That's correct, Tracy. Yes, the county is.
I mean, with the pilot agreement, we kind of have to move forward and address any seeker issues before we can, before anybody's in a position to, to approve a pilot on a project. So the last couple of times we were in front of the town board, they were reviewing the part 2 of the EAF, and I don't know if any of those comments ended up in the Labella letter, or if someone's going to give us the comments from the last workshop. Apparently there was some discussion there, but we didn't realize you were talking about the project, or they were talking about the project at that workshop. So, we're happy to address any questions and provide whatever information that you need. We just kind of need to know what it is that you need to see so we can provide it.
Yep. The one other thing that I understand that you had submitted your application in September, and we talked about it in detail here. But as we spoke at that time, it was pending on the zoning change, so.
Correct. Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah.
And just on that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask probably what you were going to ask, which is, was the local law with the zone change filed with the Secretary of State yet? Do we know?
That I don't know. That's up to the town board to execute that, and I'm not sure of the status of that.
But they did approve the rezoning, right?
They did.
Yeah, okay, good. Because of COVID, it takes a long time for the Secretary of State's office to post local laws that they get. So we were just looking for confirmation that that they had been sent, that's all.
Yep. The other question, there was as everybody knows, this has to go to the county for review, and recently in the town of Ridgeway, there was a project that went through the county review, and I just wanted to go over a few things that the county, that the applicant in the town of Ridgeway stated that are similar to our project here, your project here. The projects, because they're on two separate parcels, the Public Service Commission did not allow them to be merged in the town of Ridgeway. Is that what you are planning here?
No, we are not planning to merge the parcels whatsoever. Just to be clear, we are leasing from the landowner. So, we don't even have the right.
Now, maybe I didn't make the question clear. The two projects, because they're on two separate parcels, tax parcels, the plan is not to interconnect them and make them one project. They will be separate projects. Is that correct?
No, we have a single, when we define project here, it is basically, we define project as point of interconnection. So while we physically have modules and ancillary equipment, located on two parcels, it is still physically one project. So you think of it as one common fence line, all the power is being generated by the facility being provided to a single location.
Okay. Are either, and I should know this, but are either one of the solar arrays on each parcel going to exceed 5 megawatts?
No, the rated nameplate capacity for the entire project is 4.5 megawatts DC, which is consistent. We are well aware of the community solar value of distributed energy resource, or VEDR. You'll hear that acronym a lot. Very familiar with that program, and exactly why we have, proposed the project not to exceed 5 megawatts AC.
Okay. The roadways that you have that are access roads, are those roadways designated at a width of 20 feet minimum?
Good question. Let me pull that up. I know at least the entrance, at least from Oak Orchard Road back to our fence line is to be consistent with utility requirements for long-term O&M. But let me just pull up site plan, the current site plan, to see if what our inter-parcel roadway widths are. Just give me 1 second. They're either 15 or 20. Sorry, bear with me, my internet is moving extremely slow. No, yeah, they are, per current design plans, they are all 20.
Now, the load limits that were set down in Ridgeway for their project were set by the local utility companies And that's something that you guys have done also, right?
In terms of,
Well, the meeting minutes state that the question was asked how the applicant asked the applicant how the load limits are set by the Public Service Commission. And the reply was that the limits are to be set by the local utility companies. So you're,
correct, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
so the load limits, you guys have already reached out to the local utility company and determined that.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah, this is, I mean, we've had the project studied. I mean, this is going back over a year.
Yeah.
That we submitted our interconnection application. The project has been studied. Actually, we've actually made our full interconnection deposit for this project. The substation work associated with the upgrade is already on track, or it's already occurring.
I just was curious because, again, they're gonna ask these questions at the county level, so. That was was correspondence, or did you guys reach out to Ag and Markets and have correspondence with Ag and Markets about this?
We have not had direct access with the New York State Department of Ag and Markets. However, there is a October 2019 guideline document that we are very familiar with. That will and can be adhered to for this project. I think that the formal actual coordination with Ag and Markets would be completed as part of our megawatt block, the NYSERDA program. So as part of that process, NYSERDA actually has to file a notice of intent with New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, of which we are involved with. But that essentially that trigger happens after our local approvals are completed.
Okay. This is gonna be set up with ownership, which would be named on the bond. What owner, and again, I'm just going back to the questions that were raised in the Ridgeway application, but what, on the bond for the town, what would be the owner, who would be the owner on that?
It'll be the AES special purpose entity. Essentially, we created, call them SPEs, SPVs, special purpose vehicles, special purpose entities, basically a limited liability company, which we have already set up for this project, and is an AES LLC name essentially. So we would the holder of the bond will ultimately be in our project company name, and again, AES is independent power producer, long-term owner operator. So we will be, after the system is commissioned and operational, we will also be the owner operator of the system for the duration of its life.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was actually the form of that we provided. I believe we actually filled in all that information in the surety bond itself. But to answer the question directly, it'll be an AES limited liability company.
Okay. You're aware that our current fee structure is such that the solar zoning, which we call the solar farm, so to speak, but the special use permit fee is based on $200 per megawatt for a maximum rated capacity per year.
Yeah, and I guess just to clarify, you asked the state for like fees for the actual application submission.
That's the special use permit. That's the special use permit fee. Yep.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that at least as of today, we have provided all necessary fees for the application. But if if there's anything still left out there, please let us know. But I believe we provided all the necessary.
was one of the things that came up at our workshop, but I'm not suggesting that fee's been paid yet. I'm only suggesting that after the special use permit is issued, that will be the fee for it.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you clarifying it. Yeah, no problem whatsoever there.
And I think I understood from what you said to the previous gentleman that that's a yearly fee.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Teresa.
Some of the other projects in the area, when you read the paper about them, I just was curious, but will this discount electricity be available for residents who live in the vicinity of the project?
Absolutely.
If they participate in the community solar process of the utility company?
So great question. Yes, the answer specifically, yes, any resident of the town of Barry, or frankly, any small commercial or residential customer within, maybe getting a little bit into the weeds, but there's New York Independent Service Operator, NISO, basically handles all the transmission, what we're actually interconnected to a distribution voltage. NISO basically oversees all the power flow throughout the entirety of New York State. But basically, any residents within the town of Barry, or frankly, anyone located within the state NISO load zone can actually participate and be a customer of the community solar garden. And basically, the way that works, in actuality, we actually have a group internally, as well as do work with some third-party firms who we do utilize to actually help assist in finding subscribers, finding customers. So it would basically be, it will be entering, if someone is interested in becoming a customer of the solar garden, they would enter into a power purchase agreement, a PPA, with AES to be essentially the creditor of the credits generated by the host account. Basically what happens is we provide electricity to the grid. That electricity is converted into a kilowatt hour. Not a kilowatt, but basically that number is the kilowatt hour that we provide is transferred into a monetary value, which is associated with the host account. So AES would own that host account, or the account, basically the meter. Think of it as the same thing as the meter with your home. Our account would have X amount of credits generated on a monthly basis. We would then take those credits and basically apply the credit to residential small commercial customers located in that same NISO load zone. And that's basically how the logistics of the actual power off-take and power crediting arrangement works.
Is there a problem getting a copy of this?
I'd have to consult Lance, but I don't believe so.
Seems like, I don't see anything in here that they would want to know all this, right?
Yeah.
Somehow that's it.
Yeah, I don't see any problem.
And I just speed read through it. Just small, I don't see anything here that would be a showstopper. Just get a little details. So, I should pass it by Lance and then give him a copy. He says it's okay.
Yeah. that's what I was thinking.
Sounds good.
I don't know how everybody else feels about this either, but if we felt like it required a special meeting of the planning board after we get a little time to review this and then make a recommendation to the town board, we can do that too.
Especially if we get names to say on who.
Yeah.
Right, then.
Or we could at least be ready to make some recommendation after these changes get made. It shouldn't be that. I mean, we're talking maybe 2 months,
Yeah.
maybe a month.
Yeah, but we, like was stated, if we can go through the process of making our recommendation to the town board pending these changes, then the town could
Be ready
go to the county with it, or we could, we could get these changes made, and go to the county with it.
That sounds fair.
So,
We would certainly appreciate it if you held a special meeting, and we'd be happy to participate whenever you schedule it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. Trying to make sure my 2-year-old and grab stuff she said, but thank you for saying that. I completely agree. That was something the board would be able to do. I greatly appreciate it.
is there any truth to the statement that the quality of the materials that you folks choose to use in the building of the project could affect the consistency of power to residents in the area?
I mean, good question. I am certainly not a grid regulator, but from my perspective, I mean, the new generating facility being located in a distributed fashion really improves the resiliency of the grid. You got to think about it, right? You have these centrally located, substations that are stepping down voltages from, transmission level services that NITO is overseeing, as I previously indicated, New York State Independent Service Operator. You basically have these, very dedicated locations of GNC, not even just substations, but really where the actual physical power generation is occurring. If you start having these individual, smaller distributed generation scale generation sources located throughout the grid, it only improves the resiliency of the existing distribution that's serving your residential customers.
Yeah, you asked a different kind of question. You're talking about selection of their materials. They're talking about the fact that by having distributed power generation spread out now, you're going to have a more resilient grid because power is spread out. That's what he's talking about. You're asking some question about how do you worry about this one. The material, the equipment that they're using might in fact have some adverse effect to people on the grid.
People in the surrounding area?
Yeah, but
Is
my
that- that's-
understanding, the equipment that they use has to be certified by the state. You can't just, like, for myself or yourself, what you want, and you say you put together a grid-tied system, you have to follow and buy only the equipment that's on the list that's been approved by the state. So I'm sure they're under the same scrutiny, if not worse, than homeowners.
Is that correct, Adam? You guys have an approved materials list you have to utilize?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, no, great point. And I'm sorry, so maybe I didn't answer the specific material question directly enough. Yes, 100%. I mean, we have an approved vendor, we have an approved product list that we meticulously fixed. I think that, sound like a broken record to some degree, but the benefit of working with a company like AES, right? We are long-term on our operating, so we're not in the game of trying to, get, install kind of the most, cost-effective, solution here that's gonna cost them to continue, right, add continued cost for operations and maintenance, right? I mean, we are looking at this project over the course of really, these panels have useful life of 30 years plus. Assuming you're using the right, module supplier. So, so there is, we meticulously picked through, I mean, our engineering team, is sent to the manufacturing facilities for these companies, to ensure that they are, that they're installing everything that they're telling us they're installing for spec sheets. We take this part of it incredibly seriously, because we are looking at from our operator. We want to put stuff, we want to make sure that we're installing things out there that are not going to cause harm, right, to anyone or the environment. And additionally, we're thinking about this from a long term, owner operator perspective.
Does the state public service commission provide approved vendors that you can utilize and materials that you can utilize, or are those chosen totally by you?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've seen a published list from the Public Service Commission. Maybe Teresa might lay on you a little bit here, but I don't believe I've actually seen a formal approved list.
Yeah, it's interesting, the Public Service Commission for smaller solar projects really doesn't play much of a role. The role is more played by NYSERDA in terms of looking at community solar projects. However, I would say the National Electric Code is very specific about what you have to do and what you have to supply. And whichever utility you have out there, I don't know if it's National Grid or NYSEG, National Grid. They are very specific. They want to know everything, and they look at that as part of the interconnection study, and also the independent systems operator also, looks at that because the grid, the grid depends on it. You can't interact with the grid without having, substantial sign off on all of this equipment, especially the, yeah.
Yeah, I would also add it to like things like UL certification listings, right? I mean, we're not using anything that hasn't been tested and approved, to be utilized, under from the underwriter's laboratory, associated with our project. To Teresa's point, it's a great point on the, on the utility interaction with this. This is, they obviously are very meticulous and very careful. They take under extreme scrutiny when they're studying our project. What equipment are you putting out there that's going to be interacting with our grid?
That's all I have. That's enough.
Okay, so then I guess just in terms of next steps, then I guess would you share sharing the Labella comments? I think we could definitely take a look through them. And I'm sure there's some of these that we can address in fairly short order, and are happy to kind of provide an updated resubmission back to the town based upon them. But outside of that, I guess just wanted to kind of hear the board's thoughts on next steps here.
Did you want Lance to look this novella over first and then we send it to them? Is that what you were saying?
That's what I was suggesting, that and the changes we talked about in our last
Workshop.
Right, and send both of them with Lance's approval or his notes if there's anything that he needs to add to it.
Right. And then be willing to get a feel good from him about that, and find out make sure he agrees with the logic that you mentioned, that we can make the recommendation to the town board on the project pending these changes that we know have to go to the county for review.
Yeah, because there are some things on this labella that they would have to, Adam would have to correct.
Right,
and straighten out.
In their
As I'm
maps.
reading down through here on the seeker is one of them, there's quite a few, so, yeah, that would be. And they could take care of that part of it. And then that would give us time to look things over and get our ducks in a row here.
Right. So I guess that's where we would like to go from here, if that's agreeable to you folks. And then we'd have I'm assuming everybody would be available if needed, if we had to have another meeting in a couple of weeks.
Sure.
So we could do that and have another meeting in a couple of weeks to officially make the recommendation to the town board.
That sounds great, and that'll give us plenty of time to respond to Labella's comments, so we'll have everything wrapped up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a plan.
Okay.
So you guys will let us know what date you're gonna choose, or are you gonna pick one tonight?
We could, we probably better wait to hear from Lance first. We'll be back in contact with you. 2 days or 2 weeks would put us somewhere around the
22nd.
22nd, it's a Monday, right? So,
That works. At least we can put it in there tentatively, so make sure we don't schedule something else then.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks.
So just for my clarification, are we changing the zoning for them, R1 and business? How, I'm not understanding this area, I guess.
We changed for the business district, we changed the limits of the district in the town.
Okay,
And we also clarified the setback from the center line to the edge of the business district of 500 feet.
okay,
And then on the AR and R1, we had a very small percentage of it down that had AR, that had R1.
mhm,
And we modified that and changed it to AR. Because we had very little R1 and there was not much reason.
Now, it's already been.
Those things have been done. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's another set now that we talked about at our last workshop, right, which is another series of changes that are in the process.
Yeah,
Those are the changes, aren't they?
No, it was a previous change.
those two changes were to the zoning.
mhm.
The town board had to make those recommendations.
Quite a while.
Yeah, they're still upset about, our zoning says it has to be in agricultural residence, and they have that accessory road go through business along some structure or something. And they're afraid that's gonna screw things up.
But I think that's been clarified now. Because it had,
Variance or something.
Yeah.
Just,
that's what they stated in the zoning board.
So they will get a variance then to use that access road?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it stays the way it is?
Yeah, what was the previous one that was a few months ago? A very similar zoning change in the solar that had the town board and the planning board crisscross. We already went through that. Didn't we?
It was for the general zoning as far as business districts, extending them down 31 and down 98, and those things, they're already done, they're passed, right?
Mhm.
Accepted. Public hearing, all that stuff. Those somewhat affected the solar, but because it required them to push back.
I thought there was one specifically in, so didn't we already revise the revision once?
We were trying to work with this company, yes, so that it wouldn't have to be a variance along with special use or whatever they're doing, I don't know. But it has now, because we're not gonna change our business in our ARs.
I think we talked about some of the smaller solar for homeowners. Didn't we change something there? Is that where you're going, Kurt?
I just remembered, it's probably been 3 or 4 months that we had, I thought it was in the solar, it was almost the same exact changes that we're making now. The town board and the planning board were naming, doing the same thing that we're doing now. They were both the lead agencies, and we had to make one. But I could be remembered.
I think that we had done it, we talked about it, and I'd have to go back and look, but we never acted on it. We
Okay,
wanted to wait to get a bunch of things together, then do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. May have been these same paragraphs.
Thank you.
So not only did we have a record, not only did AES find some inconsistencies in our law, and they sent us an email and listed those things all out, but also we had some recommendations from Lance that while we were trying to straighten out those inconsistencies, he's recommending we make some other changes also.
On top of those.
Yeah. And those are the ones we talked about. There's those 3 sheets of paper. We talked about them at the last workshop.
Now, is this Labella thing going to bring about?
Yeah, and those things were all took place prior to getting this, right?
It looks like there might be some more.
So did that come as a result of this, or was that just the review of their previous change?
Yeah, this came in coincidence today because AES, hired they had to pay for a consultant review and third-party review, and these comments were from that review.
It's critical of certain things that they've done in their proposal, but also critical of some things in their zone.
The thing that I'm still clear on is you brought up, you brought it up too tonight. There's 2 parcels, and they're gonna use it as just one project, okay, which is fine. Is it okay in our zoning laws to be zoned as one parcel, or do we have to zone it as 2 individual parcels? And I'm talking about the setbacks, because it doesn't make any sense, it should be one parcel. Otherwise, you're not gonna zone the whole middle, you're gonna lose a big portion of setback between parcels, you know, you're following?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that has to be,
Isn't that on one of the variances?
For the zoning board.
that's, yeah, okay.
Is that
That's, I
one of
mean,
the
that's gonna
things-
have to be addressed.
Is that one of the things the zoning board discussed, the variance?
With the sunset clause?
They
That's what you.
touched on it a little bit, but they're waiting for direction
That's probably what number 6 is,
when they definitely have to work on
you
it.
know, cross-access easement.
Because if they use it as 2 parcels, they're gonna have to have setbacks in between, which is they're gonna lose a lot of solar panels.
Maybe that's just where the road.
One other thing I forgot to ask them about was that they, in Ridgeway, they talked about a title and a lien search on the property. I didn't ask them about that.
Hey, Tom, I am still here if I could, if you'd like me to apply.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Good, yeah, gotcha.
Got
Sorry.
it, sorry.
Forgot to ask you that.
Yeah. No, yeah, no worries. I know you guys, I was looking at the agenda, there's gonna be some more, more discussion on, the pending changes, so I didn't want to listen in just to hear those. But yes, we have run a full, title search on the property. Have a title commitment, and nothing that we can see is in terms of any further existing liens, on the property. I don't believe, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, there is any, mortgages to worry about, but I believe there's no liens, we can't see any sort of liens as far as we can tell, from available public government records.
Didn't they state that that information had to be provided to the town board too,
Yeah,
the title search?
Yep, they were going to ask, that be provided to the town of Greenway. Would you guys be able to provide that to us if we wanted it?
The title commitment?
Yeah, the title search.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that would be a problem whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no problem with that, Adam. It's all public record and
I was gonna defer to my attorney, but thank you for hanging on here. Where we haven't able to share that, so yeah. No, and now that Teresa has confirmed, I can definitely share.
One thing I wanted to address too, I heard somebody ask you a question about there are two separate parcels owned by two separate people, so we're just leasing it, but we're using it all as one parcel, so that means we have to get an area variance from the zoning board of appeals just for the strip down the middle between the two property boundaries, and, we've agreed to, and we have no problem at all with the sunset clause, so the area variance goes away. Whenever we decommission the facility, it'll go back to, being treated for all intents and purposes as two separate parcels. So, the thing we asked the zoning board of appeals about, in October, where they gave us their interpretation, was about the, access road. And and the, stormwater, treatment. So if you look at the zoning code allows by special permit utility installations in both business and AR. And that, along with the language in the code, it's really not a problem for us to have those structures in the business district to go along with the solar panels and everything else on the property in the agricultural residential district. So, but we had to get an interpretation to that effect from the zoning board of appeals. We can't get an area variance yet because seeker hasn't been, the seeker process hasn't been completed by the town board. Once they've done that, then we can ask for an area variance.
Yep, I'll just jump in and just clarify why we hadn't gone that route yet, but thank you.
The setback from the property lines for the north limit and the south limit of the project, those are also gonna require a variance because you're gonna be close to those or not?
No, we are outside of that.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, no.
so the only variance then is for the strip down the middle.
It's parcels of that.
That's right.
Yeah. What was that? Was it two parcels up?
A butt,
Okay.
where they run along.
Yep, gotcha. Okay. Anything else on that? Okay. All right, well, again, we'll get that stuff, to Lance and then get it to you.
Great, thanks, guys.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Thank you. one of the other things related to this too was, what we talked about at our workshop was, the question of shall and may and must, right? I asked Lance this and he didn't respond yet. You saw that too. And then just clarification that these zoning changes would have to go to the county first. It's pretty obvious, I think they do. Okay, well, we'll get that, Lance and see what he says.
I don't have a problem with making our laws say must have instead of shall have or may have. I don't see a problem with must because then it's cut and dried. You don't have to think about, well, it could be this way or it could be this way. I kind of like how they one.
But that ties your hands, so that's where you gotta.
It does, but is that what you want? You want to be able to take care of your people. So isn't that what you want? And if they have to have a change, then we have to go through like Heritage Wind did, go through and you've got to try to make changes that way. So just a thought, just a thought.
If we have another meeting in February and talk about these things, the likelihood that it would just be a quick one, and we vote on a recommendation. How would everybody feel about working on the battery law at that time?
We can give it a try.
What are we gonna do with the solar change?
We're gonna give these three things that I gave you at the workshop and the fellas recommendations, we're gonna give those to Lance and make sure that,
Well, some of those changes came from you.
yeah, but the wording is, yeah.
And then they're gonna go directly from county?
We're gonna get his input on them, and then we're gonna confirm that he supports the idea of approving this project from the planning board level without having these changes fully enacted, right? Because that's what they're asking us to do, is to approve this project and make our recommendation to the town board without having these zoning changes executed.
Or completed, finalized, or whatever, before they can get approved.
Which,
I don't think there's any of those changes.
yeah.
So unless something kicked back from county that they didn't like, but probably it will be fine.
But again, litigation, she said, like she was saying, wouldn't probably be litigated and it wouldn't go through, but why even put us in their position? Why put the town in their position? Where we might have to defend ourselves.
We could be ready to make the recommendation anyway. We
Sure.
don't have to make it, but we can be ready to.
Well, that's what Lance says. Lance says it's a worry.
He may say that we can't, he may say we can't do that. He may say that we have to make the zoning changes, go through the county, make the town, and then before we make a recommendation on the project.
Yeah, I think that's a smarter way to do it, in my own thoughts.
Can't make like a recommendation on a project with approval, so, you know, you get a condition, I think, maybe.
It's been since September. I think they can hold off another month to get approval. That's my opinion. I don't wanna, I feel bad that it's been pushed off like this, but it was such a new law for us that we needed to get that in order first.
Well, I think it's important we get it right too, because it's gonna be an ongoing thing, right? It's gonna sounds like.
Hopefully we'll get one. Well, the town board's gonna do the final one anyway, so that hasn't even started, right? So we're not really holding it up.
Well, they're gonna wait for our recommendation.
Yeah.
So we are holding it up.
Yeah.
We're in line.
Yeah.
This is what land says. So we got at least 2 weeks.
So, everybody's good with these, with carrying, going at it like that, you know?
Yeah, sounds good.
So we need to make a motion and vote on them.
Yeah. Yeah, we might as well do that, and we'll make sure it's legit. We need a motion to, this.
You making a motion, right?
I can't make it, but
Oh,
it's a motion, it's gonna be a motion to send these 3 potential modifications to Lance for review. And, send this to Lance for review also,
Labella,
for the ballot, yeah. Well, send, permission to send this to AES, and Lance comment on this too.
okay, so I move that we take care of the 3 papers, send those to Lance along with Labella, and then send the Labella also to Adam, to AES, so that they can correct some of their mistakes that they made.
With Lance's approval.
With Lance's approval, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We should postpone our discussion on battery storage. I don't know why we need a motion. I thought that's what we were doing.
We can do that.
That's where we were going. Well, we can briefly touch on the battery storage, not try to make the law, but at least.
Yeah.
I thought that's what Tom was asking, is that the battery storage should be postponed.
I was hoping we could talk about the battery and we come back together and talk about the AES.
Well, my thought was that we should just try to follow the NYSERDA one as close as we could and just put our town name in like they want. And unless something's drastically we don't agree with, instead of trying to combine these all, just go with that one. I mean, if we could just think on that until we start talking about it, it would probably make things go a lot smoother and faster.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go through like all these other did and just change this line, change that line, and all we like that one out of this one. But if there's nothing drastic in the NYSERDA one, let's just go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to go through it, of course.
Right. I think in the guidebook too, it says that they're gonna continue updating that as well, so it's probably worth going with that and then continue to look at it and update it as they see it fit. They're more of an expert than we are, so.
So that's what, you gotta remember that that's the minimum. And from communication today, the recommendation came that we should have an engineer, because none of us are experts in this. And, to look at it, just have it reviewed by an engineer for more information that deals with it. And I agree, most of them are gonna be fine. I totally think they're well worth it. But I just feel more comfortable in having an engineer look at it or just review it. And I think some of these other towns may have better.
That's one of the things Labella offered to do too.
Are they eligible,
Are they an engineer?
are they capable of doing that?
Yeah, they did tell us that. We got an email from them about that.
Yep. They gave us a couple contacts of members in their group.
Kathy Spencer. Sean mentioned that the planning board is investigating the issue of energy or battery storage. The Bella has been working with other communities on issues and regulations related to energy storage. At the same time, the Bella and Dwight Kenyuk of North Shaw have been advising the town on related on revisions of the town's energy law on a technical basis.
I'm sure NYSERDA had special engineers involved when they made theirs. We send it to somebody that gets $100 an hour and they spend 8 hours and they'll want to make a few changes, so it looks like it's worth it. I don't see the point.
Nice, okay, well, NYSERDA has an agenda that they're pushing to have this renewable energy pushed through. That's why it's the minimum. One of the suggestions was rather than, if you can get information from a larger municipality that has the money that's already reviewed this, like Buffalo, Rochester, Niagara Falls, and go from there. Because they've done the footwork. And they have the money to do the footwork.
That's what I got from Alabama. When I called over there and spoke with someone on the planning board, they had an attorney or an engineering company from Buffalo review theirs.
And the municipalities in those areas have already done it too, because these battery storages can be put anywhere, like John was saying. So, I mean, I'm sure Niagara Falls has worked with it, or, Buffalo, Rochester.
I think the point you're trying to make is that Alabama's already done theirs, and it's been reviewed by a large engineering firm, and they're a good template to use. Is that the point you're trying to make? As opposed to using NYSERDA guidebook here and start all over again?
Well, I think they followed it. Alabama kind of followed that guideline.
Well, I would imagine they're all gonna have somewhat.
Right.
How far can you get off?
I agree.
Battery's a battery and storage is storage. But I'm trying to understand.
That's where
you're coming from, right?
When we met last night.
Save some money, we don't have to go and have another
Right.
engineering firm go over it, if we can.
Especially when they've gone over all these others. All they're doing is they're gonna throw in some hours on it and make it pay.
Easy money for them.
Absolutely, they've already done it.
So if we know that's the fact, that's important to know that they did that. And, it seems like,
Yes.
let's copy as much as possible, change some things and make it sense that pertains to our town.
Did we set a date for the workshop, the 22nd? Are we doing that?
Well, if we're gonna have do multiple things, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Lance will have a chance to go and have a response by then.
I would think so, yeah.
6:30?
Is that okay with everybody?
6:31.
22?
I think if Lance knows that there's a deadline there, he can get it done.
Okay. We got some mail that I opened at the workshop that I think is old mail, but I wanted to go through it with everybody and make sure. This was a notice of postponement of public statement hearing related from the siting board about the Heritage Wind application issued on December 22nd. Please take notice that the public statement hearing scheduled for January 5th in this proceeding is postponed. So that was notification of postponement. And there was a January 7th. Make sure I got it right here. start over. So December 8th, a letter from the siting board, New York State, about the Heritage Wind application. And it's advisement to the attorneys for the Young and Sumner that the Heritage Wind application the Article 10 application was filed by Heritage Wind with the public service law, or with public, and complies with public service law. So that's confirmation that the application was filed and complies with the public service law. The application consists of a filing made on March 13th, 2020, together with supplemental filings of September 4th, 16th, and so forth. On or about January 5th, a public statement hearing will commence. Then there was a letter from Heritage Wind on December 10th about a public meeting discussing the executive law 94C, which changed the permitting process from Article 10. December 11th, a letter from the siting board, notice of public statement hearing about the Apex Winds project. Postponement of the public statement hearing on December 22nd. A notice on January 7th of procedural conference. And this is from the siting board again. It's notice that a procedural conference will be held on before the examiners, administrative law judges of the public service of the Department of Public Service and administrative law judge, Department of Environmental Conservation, to discuss the wind project. January 14th, a notice canceling the procedural conference. January 28th, a notice of closure of the proceedings regarding intervenor funds. Intervenor application intervenor fee of $184,800 was assessed in this proceeding. So I can at least scan all these if everybody wants them.
Nope.
And then planning board, you want to do that one?
The applications this past month, excuse me. Give me a second to look them up here. Well, we've already covered the first two. The second one. The first one was request of amendments to zoning text proposed wind law revision for Barry. I'll just cover it. That was the recommended was an approval. The law imposes many technical requirements, which is not necessarily unexpected or surprised in light of the potential impact of WEX can have upon the community. At the same time, it would be unusual for further changes to be discussed over time, some of which may be enacted and not others. It is often useful to think of land use policy making as the pursuit of perfection without ever realizing it. Since the proposed law is a policy-making endeavor, the county planning board routinely defers to the will of the local governing body.
Can I make a comment? Wes?
Yep.
I, heard about the, that going to county, and so I submitted some information to Jim Bensley. I put together, I spent probably half a day or more on it, put a lot of information in it, got it into him. And when I listened to the meeting and he said during the meeting, I've been really busy, I don't have the help. I didn't have a chance to really thoroughly review information, but then it came down to, what's your recommendations? And he said, I recommend doing it. Pretty much the same reasoning, you just read there is the county's gonna pass it over to the town, whatever the town wants to do. The county won't stand in the way as far as this type of thing. What was disappointing is I went in to collect my material and he gave me some time to talk to him. And he said he didn't read any of it. He didn't review a single bit of anything that I gave him. And, and at that point I went over it and he was pretty appalled at some of the things I did. But he also, when I asked him why he didn't table it, said, well, they're not allowed to table things. That's not in there. Since then, I found out that you can get an extension, kind of the same wording, but, different terms. And he could have did an extension. So I need to call him and say, why didn't he ask for an extension? If he didn't, have the, get a chance to go over all the information, pass that information on to, the planning board itself. The other thing I found out today is there was a lot more material than just my material. There was other pertinent material that he mentioned. So that's, and I don't know if it's gonna make a difference or anything, but, I went out of there feeling, okay, he gave his reasoning and I can understand his reasoning. And then when he has the ability to extend it, did an extension for 30 days, he didn't. Now I'm back to, what's the deal?
George, I read some of that you sent in there, and what bothers me about it is you sent that down there as though you were representing the planning board.
Well, first of all,
No,
no.
It
information?
looks like it's coming from the planning board to me.
What information did you receive and how did you get that?
It was on the agenda, it's a supplement. If you went to the agenda, the county planning board agenda, it was supplement material, 38 pages.
He said he never even saw it. I'll have to look at that.
It was on there. Did anybody else look at the agenda?
Yeah, there is a supplement on there. I
And
didn't
if
recognize
you-
what it was, yeah.
If you went to it, I got the first page right here.
What is it?
What is it? It's from you. It's talking about a survey,
Right.
what is the future of Berry, examples. And it is troublesome because,
Can I see it and see if it's the same stuff that I gave him? Because then if he put it on there, he should have seen it. He told me he didn't look at it.
well, it was on there.
All right, well, that makes me feel better.
If anybody wanted to go over it. But what bothers me, George, is you put that on there as if you were representing the planning board without our blessing. Well,
No, it's not on there, is it? No, individually, it's me.
well, that should have been stated, not as a planning board member. In the short of it, it starts right off, the first page, like we're incompetent.
No.
Well, it does. You're picking apart a comprehensive plan.
Right, I had some disagreements with the comprehensive plan, that's what we're supposed to be following, and I don't feel we are. So, yeah, that's part of my argument, for sure.
It was such a non-issue back then. I mean, there's plenty of places on there for comment that people could have commented on wind. Nobody did.
There was no question that, if you're talking about the survey,
There was a lot of comments where there weren't questions.
there was not any question. on
There's
wind.
some comments, there's some questions that said, what would you like to see in this town? Or
Okay.
not see, or in industry?
Kurt,
Where should it be placed?
We can discuss this later, but if, this is good that it wasn't on there. The survey, and I did have the survey in there, so you must have put the whole thing in.
It's all in.
But my comment on that was the same as I said here a couple months ago, is there wasn't any questions for the wind, even though the heading said Barry's due for a lot of changes, wind being one of them, and there wasn't one question.
What can we do? We can't go back and change that.
No, but I would have liked to have had them, kind of stop and think. But didn't get that opportunity.
Let me stop and think. How was putting that in? What was that going to do? What was your objective?
To think before okaying something that the whole county is going to see, and the landscape is going to be completely changed.
And putting a copy of our survey that we did
That was just one of the,
was going to make them stop and think.
that was just one of the things I said that I put together.
Well, you know what? We cut you off. Let's go.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make that comment, let you guys know what.
Well, it was on there for anybody to see.
You probably didn't read it, but you put it up on.
So okay, so.
It is posted.
The Barry Planning Board concerns, right here, Kurt, this is what you might be referring to, is when we had that
But you
workshop.
put that on there without the planning board's blessing. In my opinion, you should ask the rest of the planning board, I want to put this.
These are our concerns, and I did call everybody and say how they felt about what Lance did at the town board meeting, and let them know what happened. But these were our concerns that haven't been answered yet. So hopefully they'll be answered as the workshop goes on for the public hearing.
Go, Russ.
Okay. So the second one has been answered. That was the, sorry, trying to read this online here. The request for site plan approval for the special use permit for the diesel and gas powered vehicle repair shop that we just did. The third one was in Shelby, request for amendment to zoning text, clarification of certain requirements of their solar energy system. They see it as a moving entity, and they're updating their policies. Recommendation was approval. Comments. These additional regulations, such as local road usage and maintenance during solar energy system construction, provision of adequate visual screening, and site security, seem to be very reasonable approach to protecting the interests of the town. The next one was in Gaines, request for zoning text amendment, moratorium to prohibit all battery and or energy storage systems for 6 months. Their comments, they approved the moratorium. Moratoriums are commonly enacted to give municipalities the opportunity to research new uses and their potential impacts upon the community, and devise regulations to impose upon them as necessary to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the population. And then the next one was in Lindenville, request for a site plan review, small ground mounted, that's a 340.8 kilowatt solar energy system at 11 Linwood Drive Agricultural Residential District. This was one of the Panics projects to install more solar cells they're taking advantage of the Hojack line, which they can't farm, so they put this project on that.
So they already have one.
Right, up in Lindenville to cover more of their, yeah. And this one is on the Hojack line. It's long and skinny. It's like 800 or 900 feet long and like 17 feet wide.
But there was, Linwood Avenue, they were gonna put some there too? Or is
That's
it
the address, but that's not the,
not where they're gonna put it?
right.
There was something mentioned about Linwood Avenue.
Yeah, it says 15 Linwood Drive in Agricultural Residential District. That must be the road address for,
Getting
Because-
to the Hojack?
yeah, because that Hojack wouldn't have a road address to it that would be linked to it.
Yeah, that's a dead end road. That avenue is dead end.
Yeah,
It's a,
I'm assuming that's the parcel of property that is on the road where it is at the back side of it.
Is there a power line tied into it?
yes, there's a big power line that goes through there. Not like the one down here, but
Big enough for them to co-locate get it on, for their farm use.
Right, like you did on Eagle Harbor.
Yeah.
Three-phase power line.
Yeah, it's an extension of the one they were gonna put in Barry, or up on Eagle Harbor Road, because they couldn't put the entire thing on Eagle Harbor Road, so they split it into two
Because they didn't use up
smaller
all-
projects.
They didn't use up all the land that was available. You know, they fenced in there, they didn't fill it all up in solar panels.
They couldn't, because if they'd have put it all,
I don't know if they could accept any more.
they couldn't
Under the
accept
line
anymore,
there.
yeah, is why they couldn't finish it there. Trying to think of who Anyway, that one was approved. Applicant documents shall be modified. Their tax parcel numbers were incorrect on their application. They needed to correct those. Other than that, it was below 25 megawatts, and they thought that was approved. They didn't, on their application, put on it that there wasn't an associated battery system with it. So the members of the planning board asked them to just clarify that.
Out of curiosity, do they name an outfit that's doing it for them?
They didn't.
No, they didn't.
Their application doesn't
I didn't
say
hear in the
who
application.
is this doing it? Doing it themselves? Just curious. It doesn't say, does it?
It doesn't say in here, yeah. 20, it's 17 feet wide, 20-foot wide gravel road, 960 ground mounted solar modules. So it was I think it was like 800 feet long.
900 modules, they're only 800 feet long.
960 ground mounted modules. 20 feet wide. Yeah. And then that was the last one.
Maybe you should tell, they went into quite, a lot of comments, pro and anti on farmland use, going for green energy.
Right. And that came after the applications. That was a separate person that, do you know the person that gave the?
I know, well, the one fellow was on, when he on the Albion
He was with Albion.
planning board,
He might have been on the planning board.
yeah, and then.
Yeah.
Kirby was on there, Dennis Kirby was on there,
He's a member of the county. He's on the county planning board.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, he spoke, it was.
Right.
It was interesting.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
You
That
know, they
was,
had good comments, both sides.
Is it, Ag and Markets is a supporter, you know, it's
yeah.
a spokesman for all the farmers, right? I mean, they're.
Yeah, if you, that fellow that came out from Albany maybe a year and a half ago now, if you're in the egg district, they claim they're gonna be spot on right there when all this goes on. And, you know, gotta watch out for the farmers. I don't know what they're doing if they aren't in the egg district. And I don't know how much property isn't in the egg district with what's going on with the project here. But he said, oh yeah, we're gonna be right there, tile lines and compaction and, which I thought was quite interesting, because that was my major concern was, miles and miles of tile, Kurt knows, but I still wonder how all that's gonna be repaired. But he said that's gonna be our job. We're gonna watch out for you guys.
I think Dennis and Panic both made good comments on it. Panic's like, I'm a farmer, I'm not gonna put it someplace where I can't on valuable farmland. And Dennis's comment was, it's a 20-year crop. I'm gonna put it in like I do an orchard.
Pull it out when it's done.
Count on the people that do the installing and the reclaiming to put my farmland back when they're done. I look at it as an orchard, was his comment. I tie a field up for 20, 30 years with an orchard.
I've heard that now, just metal trees.
Yeah.
When it comes into their life, they come out and farm.
The farmer, you said trees.
Yeah. So
I'll give you another pro to it. If they plant wildflowers or whatever as a crop, I'm doing a honeybee module. And one of the things that they're saying may be the problem with honeybees now is they're not getting the hardiness because they're only going from one crop, that the farms aren't diversified anymore. So there's only one crop that they're collecting pollen from, and the hedges are all gone, the weeds are all gone because of sprays, and they're just getting weaker. And if they might combine, wildflowers with these solar projects and put the bees there, it may make the bees a little bit hardier and bring them back because they're hurting.
mhm. I have heard that too, George. Yep.
Also,
Okay.
George, on this county planning board, you have on here very planning board concerns.
That was the concerns that we had at that meeting, that workshop.
Just you guys, yeah, because we couldn't be there, okay? So you did put on there planning board concerns.
That was from the meeting, that we had, questions we had.
So yes, it's all on there.
Well, it was on there in time, maybe he didn't review it, George, but I think anybody that wanted to could have. Because it was on there in the afternoon.
Cool, okay. He didn't read it. He said he told me.
Well, it's quite a bit for him to have to read.
Was there anything on there from an attorney?
No.
You know, saying there? 'Cause that's what I heard today, there was an attorney had information that wasn't addressed.
It's no excuse, but they did, Sarah Gotti was his assistant, and Tom Lampo was his assistant too.
Right, he said that he didn't have the workforce,
I'm not defending.
but I need to know why they
I
didn't
know.
do the extension.
Yep. I don't disagree. Okay.
That's all we had for county.
Okay. Need a motion for adjournment then.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stevie's still on there.
He got it from metal, he's alive.
Oh, he's kicked back in his chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real exciting, guys.
We tried to keep it that way for you.
scan, can I scan from that or no?
I can run it back. Oh, yes, it does scan.
Something we're gonna say.
That's right.
Left
Does it
tonight,
scan,
I
you
can't
got an
think of it.
email, put the email address in there?
No,
I'll just-
We had a question
that or I
about-
can put it in,
But I don't
get
think
it
it's
tomorrow,
the same
I
book
can
that
scan
I-
it,
AES.
send it to you.
AES Energy.
You want to just Google it?
Yeah. Because I was talking to some of the guys that I worked with from Somerset. And they're like, AES is fantastic.
You got all three of them?
Yes,
I did change it to one.
I never heard of them called, it's always been the Somerset
Yeah,
coal plant that I recognize it as. And these guys up there are like, oh, it's AES.
And I don't know what came from other than.
you know, they're, I don't know,
sending you.
they're still on phone.
Lee,
That's our.
the phone is all hung up, right? Are we on
It should
Zoom
be.
still?
No,
Nope.
we're off now.